What's going on, guys? It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. It is Saturday, April 27th. We just finished up the NFL draft. All 7 rounds are complete, and now it's sort of time to really start getting into, honestly, legitimate off-season prep for fantasy football seasons, fantasy football drafts. Obviously, a lot of you guys, maybe you're playing Dynasty. Your rookie drafts will follow pretty soon. And I'm just going to sort of go position by position here, go over in order which running backs, receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends were taken, sort of go over what I think the fantasy impact of all those players will be. I'm going to start here with the quarterback position. I think there's generally a lot of influence from the quarterback position that sort of trickles down into the rest of the roster. So I think that's a good place to start. But each of the next 4 days, you guys will get one of the videos. So we'll have 4 videos this week. And then I should hopefully go through and do my projections over the next couple weeks and get my early off-season rankings up on the website as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got about as much information as we're going to get until we get into like legitimate training camp and preseason. So it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of stuff we can look into. A lot of sort of surprising things happen in the NFL draft as well, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys followed the NFL draft. Super excited here. We're really kicking into like a legitimate offseason, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, let's just get into the quarterbacks. So we'll start things off with Caleb Williams. He was the obvious first overall pick by the Chicago Bears. And Chicago's fully loaded with position players. They've got DJ Moore. They drafted Rome Odunze with the 9th overall pick as well. I'll talk about him in the wide receiver section too. And they also traded for Keenan Allen this offseason on top of signing DeAndre Swift and obviously keeping Cole Kmet from last season. So they've got a ton of weapons. Caleb Williams is really in a great position to succeed here. He will offer some rushing ability as well. So I think he's going to be a low-end quarterback one here. And honestly, I don't think it's really, as far as the quarterback goes, I don't think he's a downgrade by any means compared to what Justin Fields was for this offense last year. I think the only concern for all these weapons, like I said, there's 3 arguably wide receiver 1 caliber players on this team. I think it's going to be hard for all 3 of them to perform at a high level. It's almost impossible for 3 wide receivers to all finish in the top 24 on the same team. I'd be shocked if that happens. I'd be honestly surprised if you get 2. I do view DJ Moore probably as the wide receiver 1 in this team, but honestly, it could be any one of these 3 players. I like Odunze quite a bit, so it's tough to really see that. I don't think I'm going to really have a whole lot of Chicago Bears on my fantasy teams this season, just because I think it's going to be one. They'll probably end up being a little bit overhyped with Caleb Williams, a lot of excitement, as there should be, but I just think it's going to be tough this season for all these guys to contribute when there's just so many mouths to feed with a rookie quarterback, and rookie quarterbacks don't historically produce a lot of fantasy numbers for their counterpart, their receiving options. I know CJ Stroud last season is sort of going to change people's minds on that. They're going to have that recency bias and say, wow, CJ Stroud turned Nico Collins and Tank Dell into legitimate like top 15 weapons, and it's possible Caleb Williams does have that kind of talent. He could do that, but it's just not something I'm going to bet on until I see it. So we'll see what ADPs and everything shake out to be, but I think it's going to be tough for all 3 of these guys to end up returning value. Next, we've got Jaden Daniels. He was drafted 2nd overall by the Washington Commanders. Again, there are plenty of weapons around him. They've got Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. They've obviously got Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler out of the backfield. They did lose Curtis Samuel this offseason. But plenty of weapons around Jaden Daniels. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for him to succeed here. And really, the fantasy value from Daniels is going to come from his rushing ability. Super athletic, going to run the ball a ton. I think as far as rookie quarterbacks go, he's probably the one that you want in redraft at least. Caleb Williams probably more set up for a long career and a lot more success there. But as far as just 2024 goes, Jaden Daniels is probably the quarterback in this rookie class you'd be the most interested in. Not great, honestly, if you're a fan of Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson. It's just tough for these rookie quarterbacks in general to contribute high value for these fantasy wide receivers. I mean, you've got a mobile quarterback. We know that historically mobile quarterbacks don't really do as great of a job of supporting high-end wide receivers. You can even look at some of the best mobile quarterbacks in the NFL. Look at Lamar Jackson. It's very rare that he's supporting a top 10 wide receiver. I think Marquise Brown did it once, but that's it. So it's just tough for these mobile quarterbacks to contribute a lot of fantasy value to their wide receivers. So as far as the pass catching options go, I'm not super excited there, but I do think Jaden Daniels has a shot to be a fringe top 10 guy this next season. Next, we've got Drake May, who was drafted 3rd overall by the New England Patriots. And honestly, I just don't really see a world where this works out for New England. I haven't been super high on Drake May as a prospect. I think he's obviously got a lot of arm talent, but he's got a lot of footwork things he needs to clean up, makes a lot of questionable decisions. Just sort of gives me like Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson vibes, which I'm sure is not something you want to hear if you're a New England Patriot fan. And it could certainly work out. Like I said, he's certainly got talent. He's got arm talent for sure, but I think he's going to need time to develop. And the weapons in New England just aren't good enough at all to support him. They took Jalen Polk, a wide receiver out of Washington, in the 2nd round. He was the 37th pick overall. Outside of that, they've got Demario Douglas and Kendrick Bourne. So there's no true wide receiver 1 on this team. They are also a defense-first organization in general. They tend to focus focus on the defensive side of the ball more, and they've got a first-time head coach who, again, operated on the defensive side of the ball, and that's his background. So I don't see the offense in New England being very good at all. I don't have a lot of excitement for that team at all, and I think New England's probably going to be in a position where they're going to need to draft a wide receiver really high next season. So I think it's honestly possible that almost nobody on this roster ends up being a meaningful fantasy contributor. All three of those receivers I listed, they'll probably have some spike weeks. They could be guys that you can use in a flex spot every now and then, but I'm not super excited about any one of those three. I don't think Hunter Henry is going to be a super reliable asset, and they've got Antonio Gibson and Ramondre Stevenson, so they'll probably eat into each other's workload. Just not going to be a super exciting roster to be looking at for fantasy this season. Next, we've got what was probably the shock of the draft, and that's going to be Michael Penix Jr. being drafted 8th overall by the Atlanta Falcons. Honestly, might be one of the worst draft picks I can remember, and that's not a knock on Michael Penix. I think Michael Penix has certainly got talent. He's certainly a player that could pan out and be a quality quarterback in the NFL, but the landing spot just makes no sense. You know, the Atlanta Falcons just gave Kirk Cousins $100 million in guaranteed in a 4-year, $180 million contract this offseason. The scenario where Michael Penix ends up being fantasy relevant or ends up even playing in NFL games means that they whiffed on that Kirk Cousins signings. There's no world where both of those moves can end up being good here. It just doesn't make any sense. If we do see a scenario where Michael Penix plays, it's obviously a really bad sign for the health of Kirk Cousins. I'd be shocked if Penix just came in there and won the job. So it's just not good at all for the Falcons. There's no way it really helps them this season at all. If Penix plays, it means Cousins isn't healthy, and then you've got a rookie quarterback, and the weapons there aren't going to be very good because rookie quarterbacks have a hard time supporting fantasy weapons. It's probably going to be a few years before Penix sees any real action. So for now, I'm just going to pretty much pretend he's not on the roster as far as fantasy goes. I'm still going to assume they've got Kirk Cousins. They're throwing the ball to Drake London, Mooney, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan. But if something happens where Penix ends up starting, I think we're going to need to adjust our expectations for this Falcons offense and sort of dial them back a little bit. Next, we've got J.J. McCarthy. He was drafted 10th overall by the Minnesota Vikings. I think he's honestly going to have a lot of real-world NFL success here. It's a great landing spot for him. They've got a ton of weapons around him. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, Aaron Jones are going to be there for at least this year. They've got Kevin O'Connell, who's a really great offensive-minded head coach. I don't view J.J. McCarthy as like a super special talent, but he's certainly capable. He's a proven winner in college. He's an accurate passer. And he's going to certainly do a good enough job of distributing the ball to these players. He's sort of, I think his ceiling is sort of Kirk Cousins-esque, so I think you're getting, a good enough quarterback that can support this offense. It's going to be a downgrade from last year, at least, for especially guys like Jordan Addison and T.J. Hawkinson. It's just tough, like I've said many times, for these rookie quarterbacks to really support a lot of fantasy weapons, and I'm not going to bet against Justin Jefferson. He's going to get his. And unless J.J. McCarthy's an exception, which he certainly could be, this is a great situation for him. It's just tough, and I'm going to bet against multiple fantasy weapons getting supported by a rookie quarterback. So downgrade for those guys. Obviously, Hawkinson coming off the injury as well. Probably won't be playing until the middle of the season anyway. Still think the Vikings are going to be a good team. They should be able to win a lot of games, and I think it's a good spot long term if you have J.J. McCarthy in Dynasty, or if you want him. I think he's going to have a lot of opportunity to succeed here. So that being said, I don't think he offers a ton of fantasy value on his own. He's not mobile really at all. The weapons are there. He could certainly be like a Kirk Cousins level guy. I think that's the peak value you're seeing with him. He could end up being like a fringe starting quarterback, one of those streaming options, but I don't see him really being any better than that for fantasy. Next, we've got the last quarterback that was taken in the first round this year, and it's going to be Bo Nix, who was drafted 12th overall by the Denver Broncos. Honestly, a good fit for the system Sean Payton's want to run. We know Bo Nix makes a lot of really quick decisions. He's a really high completion percentage, really accurate passer, and it's just the kind of quarterback that Sean Payton wants to build an offense around. The concern for Bo Nix is going to be that there really just aren't any weapons available in Denver. There's a legitimate shot that Troy Franklin, his counterpart from Oregon, who they drafted in the early 4th round, I believe, along with Marvin Mims, may very well end up just being his top 2 wide receivers this season. I know they've got Courtland Sutton for now, but he's sort of holding out. Wouldn't be shocked at all if we saw Courtland Sutton get traded at some point in the rest of this offseason. So it's just probably going to be really tough for Bo Nix to find legitimate success in year 1. He's obviously going to get plenty of years to start, given that he was a first-round draft pick here. But this is probably a rebuilding year for Denver. I'd be surprised to see Bo Nix put up a lot of fantasy-relevant weeks, and I don't think there are really any weapons there that I'd expect a lot of things out of either. And last, I'll just list all the other quarterbacks that were drafted this year. Nobody in rounds 2, 3, or 4, so a pretty significant gap between what people viewed as the top quarterbacks and the guys after that. But Spencer Rattler, an interesting pick, drafted in the 5th round by the New Orleans Saints. Rattler flashed many times during his college career. He's obviously got a lot of talent. He's a project for sure, but I think he's got a potential path to eventually starting in New Orleans, given that they've got Derek Carr there and nobody else, and I don't know that Derek Carr is really someone they want to bet on for their long-term future. So it's possible that he ends up being relevant, but I wouldn't really bet on it. Jordan Travis out of Florida, he was drafted in the 5th round by the New York Jets. I don't see him playing unless Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, and even then they've got Tyrod Taylor, so that's not super relevant. But both the quarterbacks in New York are old, so I guess there's a chance that maybe a year or two down the line Travis gets a shot. Joe Milton, drafted by the Patriots in the 6th round. Milton does have a cannon. He's got a really great arm. A lot of red flags around him outside of that, though. And obviously they drafted Drake May, so I wouldn't expect a lot out of him. And then Devin Leary and Michael Pratt were drafted by the Ravens and the Packers. No shot either one of those guys ever starts. They've got young superstar quarterbacks, basically, so those two probably won't really matter much at all. So that'll do it for the quarterback section of these videos. Obviously, we've got 3 more positions to go through. I'll probably end up lumping wide receivers and tight ends into one video. The more I'm thinking about it, there's not a lot of tight ends that we really want to spend a lot of time talking about. So probably get 2 more videos here. Up next, I'll talk about the running backs. I think there's a lot that actually happened that matters, but I want to save the receivers for last because there were certainly some big superstar names that were drafted that are going to be really relevant. But a lot happened with running back position as well. We'll talk about Kyren Williams and what happened with him, with the Rams taking Blake Corum out of Michigan. A lot of things happen in this NFL draft I think are really going to impact things down the line. I think a lot of you guys are going to be curious to see and just, want to know what we can expect from these guys going forward. So it should be a lot of fun. Like I said, I'll be getting my projections up here pretty soon as well, at least my rankings. I'm going to really start satting all these players out now that we know where everybody landed, and it's going to be a lot of fun going forward. We're really going to get into the meat of things. So I really appreciate all you guys. It's been a lot of fun. Off-season's just getting started. We're going to get more and more content out as the off-season goes on, and I would love to hit 1,000 subscribers by the start of the NFL season. We're super close. We're at like 970 or something. I think we can get there. The sooner we get there, the better. It's just a lot of fun. It's been a goal of mine for a while, and I'd just love to get there. So I appreciate all of you guys. If you're already subscribed, please just give the video a thumbs up. Make sure you click the bell so you get notifications as more videos come out. They're going to be a lot more coming up, so make sure you don't miss it if you want to really start getting ramped up, getting wrapped around for fantasy. It's going to be a lot of fun. So appreciate all you guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. Stay tuned for the next couple of videos. Peace. Bye. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.